Hey guys, welcome back to day 2 of Loose Powder Week. I have a powder here that I've been dying to try. This is the Chantecaille Talc Free Loose Powder, and I have it in the color Light. So I had mentioned yesterday, and I did sort of the same thing during Foundation Week, where some of the products that I'm using, it's like maybe like a second or third impression. Some of them are full reviews and some of them are first impressions. And this is a first impressions. I just purchased this off of, I think, the Nordstrom site, either Nordstrom or Bergdorf, I cannot remember. In any case, I always link to the products that I am showing and that I'm wearing down below in the description box. So if you're interested in seeing me apply this loose powder to my face, doing a full day wear test, and giving you my final thoughts at the end of the day, then just keep on watching. So we've got the Chantecaille Talc Free Loose Powder here. I have it in the shade Light. It comes, I believe, in 2 shades, Light and Subtle. And Subtle, I think, is just a little bit deeper. At least that's how it looked in the pictures. I believe I purchased it for $65. And something I was kind of struggling with before I started this whole loose powder week was some loose powders are for setting, some loose powders are for finishing, some can work for both. And how was I going to differentiate between that, especially if it's a first impressions? I don't know if it's going to work better as a setting powder. I don't know if it's going to work better as a finishing powder. So I figured what I'm going to do is powders that have absolutely no kind of finish to them at all. They don't have like a sheen. They don't have any kind of sparkles. They don't have any micro glitters in there. Any of those kind of powders I'm going to use as setting powder. Anything else that is supposed to kind of give your skin like this glow and kind of like help buff your makeup, I'm going to use as finishing powder. And then obviously if they actually give you in the description what it's meant for, then I will definitely use it in that way, if it's a first impressions, which a few of these will be. So the Chantecaille, of course, in their description did not give me any information. It just says, imparts a smooth translucent finish over bare skin or any foundation formula. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a setting powder. I think this is purely matte. I'm going to go ahead and open it up now. Here is the packaging. Really beautiful chrome finish packaging, and the cap here just pulls off. Comes with a nice puff on the inside here. And then I see it just has a big sifter at the top, and currently you'll see that there's a seal over this. So let me take this seal off. So what I'm going to do, like I did with the Marc Jacobs, half of my face I'm going to use a powder puff. I think I'll use the one that is included because it is quite nice. And then the other half I will try with a brush. And I have 3 of my brushes here. I have the La Mer powder brush, which is the biggest and most fluffy with a dome top. I have my Chikuhodo Z1, which is egg-shaped as well, but it is smaller than the La Mer. And it's also natural-haired versus synthetic. And then I have my Sonia G Face One brush, which I really enjoy, but I think I like this one more for finishing because it really helps me buff. So I think I'm probably going to stick with these 2. So I think what I'll do is I'll just try and pour some into the cap here. So I'm going to take the puff. I'm just going to lightly press it on top of the powder, pick some up. And I think in yesterday's video I used the puff on this side, so I'll continue doing that. And I'm just going to press the powder on, and then I'm going to roll and press it in. That's very nice. It's very, very light. It is definitely matte. There are definitely no sparkles or any kind of glitters in here. I think this is good for a setting powder. I'm just going to use a little bit more kind of around my eyes here just to see how it sets my concealer. Press and roll around my eyes here. There is absolutely no scent to this powder at all. And I really have high hopes for this powder because I have a lot of the Chantecaille pressed powders, and those powders are so silky and fine. And the same goes for this one. I don't know why I'm showing you my finger. I don't think you'll be able to tell anything, but it is incredibly soft, fine, silky. It almost feels like it melts into the skin, which I'm kind of feeling on my face here. Let's take a closer look. I think it did maybe a little bit of blurring, but not too much. I think this is more of just like kind of a straightforward powder, just sets your makeup. It feels completely weightless, doesn't do any caking or anything. So I am very interested to see how this wears during the day. I'm going to add also a little bit around my nose because that's where I get the most oily, and that's usually where powder either shines or just fails me. So I'm going to put some little extra around my nostrils here and on the tip of my nose. Very, very light. And it's definitely translucent. I don't feel like it's changed the color of my foundation at all. I think it's just the finish. I have a Clé de Peau, the foundation, on today, so you can see how glowy my skin is on this side, and with the powder you can see how much it has mattified it and set it down. Alright, I think I still have plenty left in my cap here, so I'm going to go in with the Chikuhodo Z1 brush first, just see how that is. Knock off any excess. So I have a little bit here, and I'm going to pounce that and then use large sweeping motions to set. And I'm going to press this around my eyes where I have concealer. The application looks fairly similar to me. Usually when I use a puff or a sponge or something, it's a little bit thicker. I feel like there's a little bit more of like a mattifying effect, and sometimes it starts to look a little bit cakey, but I feel like this powder is so fine that either application is okay, and they both look very, very similar to me. I'm going to go ahead and apply it to my forehead, but I'm going to try the La Mer brush. I want to see how that works, how it feels. So let's see if it's doing anything weird to my forehead. Nothing odd. As you guys know, if you've been with me for a while, things tend to get really funky on my forehead and then really funky around my nose, chin area for very different reasons. I think around here is because I produce the most oil, even though I have very dry skin. But here it's because I have, issues with eczema and texture and just, yeah, things always just get really, really weird around my forehead. But for the moment, everything seems okay. So I like the finish that it's given my skin. It definitely is a mattifying effect, but I still feel like it looks very natural. I don't feel like I look very dry, crackly, crepey, cakey, anything like that. I think it's I think because it's so finely milled, I think it's sitting on my face very, very nicely. So during this loose powder week, I'm going to forego bronzer and highlighter and things like that. I'm probably just going to use a little bit of blush just to kind of add a little bit of color back in my face, but I'm going to forego all those other products because I really want to see how this loose powder works. So let me put on some quick makeup and I'll be right back. Alright, so I just finished up my face. It's only been about 10 minutes and I keep forgetting to tell you what time I start. I started at about 9 o'clock this morning. It is about 9:20 right now, and not much has changed. I don't feel like it is looking like too powdery. I don't feel like it's emphasizing my lines or doing anything weird under my eyes or anything. So far so good. Again, I do have very, very light makeup on today because I really want to see how the powder works. So I don't have any additional products on my forehead. I only have a little bit of blush here. Eyeshadow, eyeliner, fiber brow gel, and some lipstick. So, and again, I'll link to everything I have on my face down below in the description box. So yeah, so that's it for now. I'm gonna get on with my day and I will be back around lunchtime to do my first check-in. See you then. Hey guys, it's about 2 o'clock, so I've had this powder on for about 5 hours. That math was really hard for me just now. I think this powder is looking really nice. I think what's happening to it is, I guess it's mixing with my oils or just over time. I feel like the finish of this powder has gone from a pretty kind of like just natural demi-matte finish to something that looks a little bit more pearly. It almost looks like on some points of my face that I have highlighter down, and I don't. All I've put down is some blush and nothing else in terms of product on my face, aside from eyes and lips. So it's interesting how this powder I feel like is evolving a little bit. I feel like it definitely didn't have much of a finish when I put it on, other than like it just sort of was mattifying compared to my foundation by itself. But now I feel like it has quite the lovely kind of pearly glow around my cheekbones here, basically where I have larger pores here, my nose, my forehead, my chin. I think that's pretty magical. I don't think I've ever experienced a loose powder where it goes from what I would consider a matte, maybe a demi-matte, to something of like kind of a nice, radiant, kind of finish on my skin. I really hope you guys can see that. I will zoom in as I normally do. But when I sat down to film and before I turned the camera on, I looked in the mirror, you know, to kind of take an assessment of what was happening. It really looks like I have like a very, very light highlighter going on my skin, especially up here. I really look like I have a nice pearly finish across my forehead, down my nose, and again across my cheeks. I'm really, really surprised. I'm really impressed. I personally prefer this kind of finish to my skin versus something that's matte. But if you're looking for something that's matte, this probably is not the one for you, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how this evolves during the day, but so far I'm liking it. It's not aging my under eyes at all. It's not caking up or anything. It's not doing anything weird around my nostrils or my chin. So I'll be back in a few more hours and we'll see where this powder is at that point. See you soon. Hey guys, it is about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so I have had this makeup on for about 8 hours, and I thought I would just do my final check-in, give you my final thoughts on this powder. I really like this powder. I think it is a wonderful setting powder. It set down my makeup, I think, beautifully. And what I like the most, and I think I mentioned this in my first check-in, is that it seems like the longer this powder is on your face, the more it kind of gives this really beautiful kind of pearl sheen to your skin. It just makes it look really, really soft. It makes it look like you're radiating from within, and it's just really beautiful. And for what started out as a matte setting powder, it really is kind of like a dry skin person's best friend. I really feel like it came alive the longer I wore it, and I don't think the texture of it has changed at all since I put it on. And since my last check-in, I did sort of a close inspection of my problem areas and of course over my entire face. My forehead and my chin look great. I don't have any of the weird cakiness or the emphasis of my dry kind of texture up here, but it also has stayed put. It is definitely still there on my skin. On my chin, it hasn't done sort of the cakiness that a lot of other powders tend to do, so that is really great. But what I have noticed is just around my nostrils here, nowhere else on my nose or even right off of my nose area or on my upper lip, but just in that little crevice there of my nostrils, I noticed that the powder looks like it is caking up or maybe reacting poorly to the oils that I have there, but just right at these 2 points, and that's it. So definitely really, really good. And I just love the blurred effect that it gave my skin over here. I tend to have, like all of us, I tend to have fine lines here, and then right here next to my nose I have larger pores, and the powder really seems to have blurred that out, and kind of like pearly sheen that I keep talking about really seems to be helping this whole area. I feel like it has in a way brightened up this part of my face, and I think it just looks really, really nice. I would say this is like a typical Chantecaille product. You know, it flies under the radar, it doesn't seem that impressive when you open it up or when you put it on, and at first sight you're like, oh, you know, okay, that's nice, you know, feels nice, all those things, I don't feel it, and then it just sort of starts to shine. I never feel like just completely bowled over the first time I use a Chantecaille product, but I think the fact that all of their products have this sort of gentle touch and that it kind of comes out the more you use them or the longer you have them on, and they just start to look better and better the longer you have them on. I find that to be true with their Just Skin tinted moisturizer. You know, I put it on, I think, okay, that looks nice, but then as the day goes on, it kind of becomes one with my skin, and it just looks really beautiful. I feel like this powder is just like all the other Chantecaille products that I've used. They're like, you know, quietly, elegant, magical kind of products. This one is definitely no different. I just feel like my skin looks just beautifully blurred. It doesn't look matte, but I don't look oily in any way. I just think it looks really, really great. And again, it just feels completely weightless. I don't feel like I have powder on my skin, which I feel a lot of the time with a lot of loose powders out there. I just feel like no matter how little I put on, I just feel it on my skin. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would love that. And I'll see you in tomorrow's loose powder video. I'll see you soon.